Welcome to More Than a Muse podcast. I'm Sadie.
I'm Stauney, and Happy New Year, everyone. Oh my goodness, Happy February, technically.
Happy New Year, happy February. More Than a Muse took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back. And I feel
Yeah,
really good about being back.
I do too. I feel like I should give a rundown.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Basically,
Stauney's had a really big couple of months, and I haven't even had the chance to talk to her a lot in
yeah,
it. So
I
please update
know.
us all about all of the major life changes that have happened.
Yes. So I think when we last recorded, it was October, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a little while. But basically, what happened is I got married.
Woo!
Surprise. Quit my job up north and then moved down to St. George, Utah, which is south of Salt Lake by like 5 hours, 4 hours.
It's like on the way to Las Vegas.
Yeah. So clear down here for Mo's job, who is my husband now. And then I've
Wow.
just been job searching down here and we moved everything down. I worked for like a month after I got married up there. So I was like living with my grandparents. So it was like really hard to record because I was not living in a regular space.
Yeah.
I was in boxes for quite a while. So thank you for being patient with us as I did all of that and had a little bit of a major life upheaval for a minute there.
A little bit of a major life change, marriage, new
Yeah.
location, new job. Like you
Hmm.
really did the trifecta all in like
I
2 months.
know. I was like, let's just do it all at the same time. And then,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you
So,
generally,
no.
do you feel like you handle change well? Like, has this been a good transition?
Oof, I do not handle change well. I drag my feet a lot, which I think
Mm,
like it kind of helped that this wasn't like a quick thing. Like I was living in boxes for like a month and a half. So it made it kind of more like, okay, like I'm ready to be in like a more stable situation again. But it was hard. I mean, like I loved my apartment. I really enjoyed my job.
mm.
Everything up there was great. It was time for some changes and
Time for and you
yeah.
just jumped into the deep end of change. Love that for you.
Yep, decided to just do all of it and I feel like I've been handling it okay. I am not good at being unemployed and I've learned that about myself again. I am
That's fair.
so bored. Like I don't handle it well and I feel like it makes me less creative. So it's like hard to
Mm.
even do things on my own because I like don't
You
feel
like need the structure of something.
yes.
I remember feeling that way before when I was trying to decide like do I just full send and not have any day job and just give all of my time to my artistry and the podcast and everything. And I realized that sometimes like having a smaller amount of time to do things, you have to like be so intentional about your time that you almost can work better within that time rather
Mhm.
than like, oh, I have all day to do these two things. And then it's very easy for me at least to like then sleep in and not do it all, do it anything, you
Yes,
know?
yeah. No, I just
So
end up not doing
parameters
anything
can
at
be
all.
helpful.
No, it's been a little bit bad. Plus I got like a little bit sick with like the Christmas
Oh,
season and everything. So then I was in bed all day and then my sleep schedule got all screwed up. So I just really need to like figure out life again. But
that's fair.
but the weather down here is amazing. It's a lot warmer
Yeah.
than it is up north. So that's been nice. It's like actually we got everything finally unpacked and
Great.
we're like living in an actual
You're like,
house
we live
again
here
is nice.
now.
Yeah.
That's so happy here. And hey, now that we're doing the podcast again, maybe that can at least like get some of the
Hmm.
creative juices flowing. You'll have something
Yeah.
that you're working on. Maybe that'll
That'll be
be good.
nice. Yeah. No, especially over I think the past 2 weeks, I was kind of like, okay, like we need to like start
We
doing
gotta
something
get this
again.
going again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good sign because if you take a break from something and you miss it, I think that means that that's something you're meant to
Mhm.
keep doing.
Yeah, and we are definitely happy to be back and hope all of you are happy to have us back.
I also wanted to shout out that Stauney mentioned right before we started recording that we have been locked out of one of our email addresses, which is just the hello at morethanamuse.com or
Mhm.
morethanamuse.podcast.com. So if you've emailed us and that has gone unanswered from that email address, we're so sorry. We
Yeah,
love you.
sorry.
She shouted out that there were a couple listeners who had reached out to either like add some insight insight to some previous episodes that we were like, oh, that's really helpful information. So thank you for taking the time to email us. Sorry we didn't see it because
Yes.
we did not have access to that email
I
for
know.
most of 2025, actually.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what happened. We got locked out of it somehow, and I just barely got back in. So, but yeah, thank you for
thank you.
messaging
And
us.
sorry, we don't mean to be ghosts.
No, definitely not.
All right. Well, do you want to introduce what we're talking about today?
Yes. Funnily enough, as we are back here on Your Technology, we're talking about going analog today, which has been a huge trend if you've heard of analog bags on TikTok and then just other hobbies that are on the rise right now. With my For You page is full of weird niche hobbies that people are doing that are getting really trendy and catching on.
And I think with the start of the new year, people are always like, they're thinking about the intention they want to set in their year. So I'm seeing that, I feel, even more and more, even now that we're a month into the year. I think people are still locking in, trying to, reset.
Which is always good too. I feel like sometimes maybe starting resolutions in February are kind of fun too. Give yourself January off a little bit, and then maybe do the Chinese New Year and start your resolutions then, just so that you're a little bit more prepared for the year. So maybe this will give some people some ideas too if they're looking for anything. So analog bags. Have you seen these everywhere on your TikTok too?
Yes, I have seen people talking about their analog bags, which, I guess, do you want to give a brief definition of what this analog bag is?
Yes. So an analog bag is just like a tote bag or any kind of bag really that you have on hand that you fill with a bunch of hobbies that you can reach for instead of your phone when you have downtime. And so it can be anything from like people put in their crocheting or their knitting projects. People put in their Kindles, which is kind of funny because it's not really analog.
But better than TikTok.
Yes, better than TikTok. Or they'll put in books or coloring pages or all sorts of other things that you can reach for when you could be doom scrolling on your phone. Instead, you reach for your hobbies. It was started by Sierra Campbell, I think is the one who is credited with the analog bag in May of 2025, actually, which is funny because I've just barely kind of been seeing them pop up. So
same.
I think they're just catching on more and more. But she is 31 and she's a content creator and a mom. And in her free time, she started knitting, watercolor painting, using Polaroid cameras, doing crossword puzzles, writing letters to pen pals. And then in the meantime, she inspired everyone on TikTok that followed her to reduce their screen time by 2 to 3 hours a day by using this method. And she kind of talks about how it's like, it's a little bit funny. People talk about the fact that like analog bags are trending on TikTok. So it's like inspiring you to get off of your phone, and everyone's showing them on
their phone. Yeah, there's a lot of irony of making a video about your analog bag and then posting it to TikTok. Yes. There's something that doesn't make sense in it, but if it actually does encourage people to get off their phones and lessen their screen time, still a worthy message.
Yes, and that's what she talked about, is that it's not necessarily meant to be a replacement for your phone, because like we're always going to end up reaching for our phones at some point. Like that's how you connect with the world, like she's a content creator. That's probably how she makes her living. But at the end of the day, like even if you can reduce your content consumption by just a couple of hours, then you're probably doing a lot more for your brain than you would be on a regular basis. But it's caught on a lot. Their analog bag searches are at an all-time high. There's a school vice principal who now carries around her bag with watercolors, a scrapbook, a needlepoint set. It's kind of fun seeing what people have in them, because everyone's is like very different, I think. And yet there's a lot of similar components for a lot of people too. The funny part about it too is that I've noticed a lot of people are like, let's go shopping and fill my analog bag.
Yeah,
whereas it's supposed to be more of a, you grab things you're already doing, things that you're working on, things that are around that are like a substitute, rather than like becoming another way to consume a bunch of stuff.
Those are 2 points I wanted to bring up with the idea of the analog bag, because I went on Substack and I just searched analog bag, see what came up. And there was an article that I'm not going to shout out the specific creator because I am going to slightly poke fun at some of their ideas here, but they were creating an analog bag and all the things they were going out to buy for it. And I was like, okay, that kind of, maybe this is me misunderstanding the point of an analog bag, because my understanding was it's something that you take when you're leaving the house, so that if you have like, if you're like sitting in an appointment or something, or like if someone who has public transportation they can rely on, a train or a bus, they're like taking out their book rather than like just scrolling on their phone. And so I saw it listed of a puzzle, and I was like, well, like, you're not going to take a puzzle out. Like, a puzzle is for the house. Like, that's a house activity. I feel like it was just a lot of different hobbies that I was like, great hobbies to do instead of your phone. Not really on the go. And then the last point too was like, and I found these adorable baskets on Pinterest that I'm going to use. Like, I want a basket for my analog bag. And I was like, okay, again, I don't see the vision or the functionality of taking a picnic basket with a puzzle in the name of not being on your phone as you go about your day. And listen, maybe the whole point of an analog bag is to create a cute little bag at home, or a hobby basket that she can point to when she's bored. And in that sense, that makes sense. But I think it did at least show the danger of, this isn't just like another one way you can consume and spend money. The idea isn't that you're perfectly curating the most aesthetically pleasing collection of items that you can then post on TikTok and show off of like how perfectly curated your digital or like non-digital life is. That's not the point of it. And there is a little bit of, like you said, it's a bit ironic if the point of your analog is to be performative for the TikTok world. Misses the point a little bit if you are not just genuinely doing that, or like you said, just genuinely saying, I'm working on my crocheting and I'm gonna take it out of the house so I can do it in my downtime. That's the point in my head of an analog bag.
I also think of like long car rides. That's a great time for an analog bag. Plane situations, maybe not a full tote for the plane, but like
bring the off-screen thing so you're not just sitting there on Instagram for 3 hours. Your brain won't like. But anyways, when I read the baskets, it made me chuckle. I was like, maybe. Anyway,
and like a full-on puzzle. No, I'm like, you're right.
1,000-piece puzzle in a basket. I feel like if I were to see someone walking around in the world with that, I would be like, not to be judgmental, but I would just be like, oh, what an interesting thing to take out 1,000-piece puzzle at a coffee shop. Like, that just seems crazy, but good for you for not being on Instagram. Who am I to say?
So I guess, speaking of analog bags, what could you put in them? You can throw in a crossword book, a camera, watercolor set, paper planner, knitting supplies, a small scrapbook, a journal, a deck of cards, embroidery supplies, Sudoku puzzles, stationery, coloring book. If you have a kid, they suggest even adding like toys, Play-Doh, or sticker books, which is such a good idea. Like a kid. Cute. And then having like a little analog bag that you bring with your kid instead of screen time. Genius.
Yeah. I mean, when we were going to church growing up, I remember we would have the church bag that would have the coloring books and the stickers. And, moms from the 2000s, they were killing it at the analog bags.
Oh, yeah. That's so true. I know now with my nephew, when they take him to church, they give him the Magna tiles.
Oh,
fun. That are like super popular, and he only plays with those when he's at church. So then it's like a fun little treat.
Like, he can't wait to go to church because then he gets to play with the tiles. That's funny. Yes.
But on top of just like analog bags, one of the reasons we wanted to bring this up is like analog hobbies, I guess we could call them, or like grandma hobbies, things that are a little bit more offline, are trending like crazy and have been for the past couple of years. But I think specifically now it's like reaching an all-time high of people being really invested in making things with their hands in a way that we haven't been in quite a while.
I've noticed that like people are making things more. They're feeling the need to. And I think there's probably a lot of reasons why, but I think it's super interesting to see how that has grown in trend.
And once again, trending on TikTok everywhere, but
yeah.
But again, hey, it's inspiring.
The irony is not lost on us. But exactly. I think there's so many different things that are playing a role in this. For one thing, I think like you go back to like the Barbie movie a couple years ago and this like emphasis on like girlhood and going back and almost like reclaiming your girlhood of like what are the things I used to like a lot when I was a kid and now I'm going to do the grown-up version of that. I think that's happening here. If you were to take it to a more critical lens, you could kind of talk about the rise of like the trad wife aesthetic and being like homesteaders. That's, I think, a piece of this conversation. Of course, another piece of it is I think this whole like, oh, I'm just a girl, you know, and really leaning
Yeah.
into those things. But I think maybe what I feel it truly is I think we live in a crazy time. And I think in 2020, we all locked in on our phones so much because there was so little else to do. And TikTok melted all of our brains. We got all very addicted to it. At least I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like
Yeah.
other people can relate to it. And I think that so much of the conversation I'm seeing now online is kind of like an awakening of like, oh, this is like actually affecting my brain. And I can feel how it's affecting my brain because now I have been on this app and my own personal screen time has increased so much from COVID times from 2020 that I'm seeing that there's things in my life, in my real life, that maybe I haven't invested in. I'm even thinking about like, I get ads all the time for like the brick, you know, where you can
Yes.
brick
Yeah.
your
Brick your
phone and lock
phone.
yourself out of social media. There's so many apps that are being created that I get ads for all the time. One of them I even use to limit the amount of time I'm on my social media apps or even just like make me like ask like, do you really want to use social media right now? I think people's awareness is moving up. And then also I think we are seeing so many horrifying things that are happening around the world on our phones. And a piece of that is amazing because it's great that we can all be so like connected and that we can hear from firsthand accounts of things that are happening around the world. But also it is so unique this time in history because before you weren't able to do that. Like humans aren't in a way meant to process all of the terrible tragedies happening all at the same time all around the world,
Or see
you
them
know, or see
too.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you
Which has
can
been.
see horrible things happen. And while it's great for information and it's great for awareness, there is a limit, I think, to what actually, one, like what you can actually do being countries, states away, but two, like how much your mind can actually handle that, really, you know? And I think there has been a need to go offline and exist in the real world. And I think a really great way to center yourself is just to freaking make something and to make something that feels comforting. Like for me, it's to the point where I can't pick up the guitar to release, you know, or to feel something because that's like my business, that's my job. It's not a comforting thing anymore. So now I've been turning to baking because it makes so I can turn my brain off, I can make something. It's so relaxing to me. And yeah, I think that's just I think that's like the biggest piece as to why so many people are turning to these quote unquote grandma hobbies. I think people need comfort and I think that making something comforting like of course, you know, it makes sense that people are turning to this.
Yeah, definitely. Another one that I saw that was kind of a fun thing to think about is the rejection of AI and just like
Oh,
how
yes, good point.
AI has become so, I don't even know the right word for it. It's everywhere. Like
Everywhere.
OpenAI just bought Pinterest, which kind of sucks.
Ugh,
Like
yeah.
I'm hoping that they don't do too
Touch
much
it.
with it
Yeah,
and that
like,
it's just
don't
like
touch it.
they're just investing and like, you know, they have money, I
Mhm.
guess. But one thing that was interesting is that the original arts and craft movement that originated in 19th century Victorian England, where people like started rejecting technology and wanting things that were like handmade again,
Mm,
that was 150 years ago, right? But it was a response to the Industrial Revolution, where when things started being made in
cool.
factories and like people started getting things that were no longer handmade per se. Like back then, of course,
Mm,
things were still being handmade, but they were like mass produced. They started having like a real yearning for stuff that you could tell was like handmade, that had imperfections in it, that was
that's
made by a
incredible.
human hand. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so I think it's probably a similar situation that we have going on here too, where like with how technological our world has become, I think we're craving a little bit more of that. Oh, this wasn't made by a machine. This was made by a human. This was knitted or crocheted by me. Like I made this, or like
Mhm.
things that are a little bit more unique too. Not just
Yeah.
everyone has them. like a little bit more of that like human touch to it.
I think that's so true. And I think there's almost like with that more of a forgiveness when things are flawed because
Mhm.
it's like, oh, this thing I crocheted, it doesn't look as good as this thing coming from Shein. That's okay. You know, I mean, I guess I know Shein. I don't know how they make their clothes, but I know it's problematic. You know, I'm sure a human touched it. But, you know,
Yeah.
like it's better to take the time and to do it yourself. I think that's really a good point of like this rejection of AI and these huge tech companies that just seem to be growing and giving us things that we don't need and or giving us things that don't actually make anyone's life better. It just makes
Yeah.
money for certain people. And I think that's a good point. I think people are resisting that and rejecting it. And
Mhm.
thank goodness for it.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see what happens because, like, the Industrial Revolution got rejected, and yet, like, it's still changed the world as we know it.
I think that's how people feel about AI is it's like, oh, well, if you would have, you know, turned your back on the computer, you would have been left behind. And if, you know, if you would have turned your back on all of these different, whatever, technological advancements, that would have been really bad for you. So I don't want to get behind on this. So I don't get left behind. I don't know. Maybe it's just like the grandma in me, pun intended, I guess, of just being like, no, 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 this feels different this time because
Yeah.
like this is especially when it's like art. I don't know.
I
I
know.
don't
AI
know. Maybe I'll
generated
eat my
art.
words in 15 years, but it feels different this time and I don't like
Yeah.
it.
No, it's interesting. I don't like how it's kind of overtaking reality in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Like, you can't tell when photos are AI generated anymore. You can't tell when like videos are AI generated anymore.
Like
Like,
that's
how many times have
dangerous.
you been tricked by Sora
Yeah.
videos on TikTok? Because I feel like an
I'm
idiot
starting
every
to
time
get
I
tricked. Yeah, when before it was so instant like
oh,
obviously that's AI. And now you're right. I have to second guess it
I
all the
can't
time.
tell. I saw bunnies
Or
jumping on a trampoline and I was so charmed, and then Mo had to inform me that that is so fake.
that's devastating.
Yeah,
Um
I know.
I've been dealing with it with my job because people submit music that they say they've written and I'll listen to it with my coworker and we're just like, is this AI? Like it might be
Mm,
AI and we can't it's not obvious anymore and also like obviously you can't prove it, but
yeah.
like people are turning in AI and saying I would like to get paid for this and it's like, well, but you didn't like
You didn't do it.
yeah, you didn't do anything. Like, what do you mean? Or I've seen big CEOs of these AI music tech companies being like, well, it's not fun to learn how to make music. It's hard to learn how to do this. And so we're just bringing the fun. And it's like, no, the point of
Yeah.
learning something is like the reward and the like feeling you get when you have calluses on the tips of your fingers from practicing the guitar and then you learn a riff and you've been practicing and then you get to record it and then wow you get to write a song or wow you write a show and you nail all the parts that were hard like
Mhm.
that feeling that you get is what makes it I don't know what makes it worth it. And also my thought is if you don't like that process maybe you just don't like music and that's fine, don't make
Maybe,
songs.
yeah, maybe you
Like
just
find
don't like
something you
art.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that is okay. Oh
uh,
boy. Yeah, no, I agree. It's been really, really interesting. And like, I am a culprit of it. I use ChatGPT not as often as I did when it first came out, but sometimes,
yeah.
like, it's a lot faster to have it scan through a bunch of information for you, or if I need to know what temperature to put something at really quick.
Well, yeah, the other side of it is it's like I feel like Google is dead. If I Google search
Yeah.
something, I'm not going to get useful information. That it kind of seems like ChatGPT is the only way I can even get useful information now.
Hmm.
And that feels crazy backwards.
It feels sad. I'm like, I
Yeah.
wish I could Google things and find answers to
Mhm.
stuff. And, sometimes it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely changing our world. I don't blame anyone for rejection of it completely.
Mhm.
It is crazy how fast I feel like the CEOs of the world have embraced everything so fully.
Oh my gosh. I know.
But yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with it, especially like seeing the history of like the Industrial Revolution and everything, and then like what
I
will
agree.
happen with our world. But we kind of wanted to dive into a little bit of like the analog hobbies that have been dominating our lives or our For You
Mm-hmm.
pages. So I wanted to talk a little bit about journaling, specifically junk journaling that's been
Yes.
everywhere. Have you been getting these TikToks or is it me?
I'm not so much on like junk journaling TikTok. I don't have a junk
Okay.
journal personally. I have
Mm-hmm.
a journal that, I'll put
Yeah.
stickers and random things in and I'll write in, but I haven't fully committed to the junk journal yet.
I have a bullet journal. I do not have a
Oh,
junk
fun.
journal. Yes, but I feel like that's why I was primed to hit junk
Yep.
journaling TikTok, especially
Mm-hmm.
because, like so many people, with the new year, I was inspired to start my bullet journal back up again. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like draw in it. And then lately, instead of like putting tasks, because I haven't had any, I've been writing in it. So I've
Perfect.
been using it kind of as like a regular journal, but just it's a little bit more decorated, probably than like I would
Beautiful.
normally
Yes.
do a journal. Yeah. But junk journaling has been all over my For You page. And one thing that's kind of fun is that it's a really easy to start doing junk journaling. Like if you're looking for a good entry point, I think that this is a really good entry point, especially because historically going back, it has its roots in scrapbooking, which I wanted to talk a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about the beginning of scrapbooking. So that began clear back in Victorian era with scrapbooks, or even earlier if you look at it. The Middle Ages, it was common for people to keep diaries or journals and record life activities and events around them. The Renaissance, it was popular for people to keep commonplace books, which was a bound journal of blank pages with an assemblage of notes from various sources on various topics. And then they would like copy down key passages from materials studied in libraries into their commonplace books. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a notebook, but they were just using it for everything that they were recording inspiration, progress of their work. Ladies would record their favorite religious passages, recipes, and quotes from the books that they read. And so it was kind of not really like a diary, it was more of like a way of collecting and organizing information and material, or like gathering scraps of whatever you were doing in your daily life and keeping it somewhere. And then during the 1800s, people began filling blank bound books previously used for journals or artwork with newspaper clippings, calling cords, and other printed ephemera. And some of these books contained a mix of like personal journal entries, hand drawn sketches, and watercolors, along with various scraps of printed material that they would artfully arrange in scraps. In this is when scrapbooking became like a term. And the Oxford Dictionary defines the scrapbook as a blank book in which pictures, newspaper cuttings, and the like are pasted for preservation. The earliest known date of the word scrapbook is 1854, but internet searching and everything shows that there's evidence of it dating back as early as 1821 of people doing scrapbooking.
Fun.
It's been around forever. And the Victoria era is when it became a craze, especially for women and children. And a lot of those scrapbooks are very highly valued by collectors today, not only for the
Mm-hmm.
stories they tell or like the arrangements that it's made, like the little art pieces that it is, but also like the different individual pieces of ephemera that are in the books that they can like take out and use for their own journals.
Yeah.
And these were crafted for a lot of reasons. It was a way to preserve letters and photos, it was a way to document family history, it was a way to just have a craft project to do. And of course, before photograph albums were a thing, this was like a way that they would document their life. So they didn't have Instagram or anything else, but
Mm-hmm.
then they'd have like movie tickets or like, well, I guess not movie tickets back then, but you know what I mean? They'd have like
Yeah.
tickets to things or like dancing cards or a guest list or visiting cards. They'd have a playbill or a ticket stub. They'd
Mm-hmm.
have plants or trinkets or like little things that they wanted to keep to represent their lives, but they didn't have like a way to preserve them. And so scrapbooking
Mm-hmm.
became that way of doing it. It was also a way of teaching children how to illustrate things, or like a rainy day occupation for children when you can just shove them out the door. They would be like, here's our drawer of scrapbooking supplies. And they would
Yeah.
teach children the art and beauty of the scrapbook. I thought this was funny. There was a quote that said, "The helter-skelter scrapbook made without rhyme or reason, with facts and fictions and poetry all pasted in just as they came in hand, is an unsightly affair and offends any well-ordered mind." So it's like, you must learn the art of scrapbooking and it must be done
Mm-hmm.
well. Trade cards were also used a lot for scrapbooking, as well as like labels for medicine, tobacco, clothing, household items, sewing goods, different things like that that people could put in their scrapbook and kind of show the different stuff that they were using.
Truly
And
just a junk journal. Yeah.
yes. And so then photography, of course, was invented and changed scrapbooking forever, because then people were able to start putting photos in. And that's where you have a little bit more of like the our mom's
Mm-hmm.
era scrapbook with like
All the
little
different
stickers and
paper
cutouts and
and yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah. But like that early day of just collecting memorabilia, letters, die cuts, labels, all sorts of that was junk journaling essentially. And it's become really popular again. There's a creator on TikTok called Martina Calvi, and she's a mixed media creative from Sydney, Australia. And since 2015, she's been posting her junk journaling online and is basically like a little celebrity of the junk journal
Fun.
world. Her book in 2024, she came out with a book called The Art of Memory Collecting. And it has a bunch of stuff about like how to
Cute.
junk journal. And then she is also releasing another, or did release another book last year called A Year of Junk Journaling. And then I think she even came out with like sticker books and stuff too, or like something along those lines.
Yeah.
Because yeah, her name comes up a lot. And then you have other people who are doing a lot of junk journaling and becoming very popular for it. And then it's also getting covered by a lot of media outlets. It's been featured in Rolling Stone, Martha Stewart, Vogue, Apartment Therapy, Harper's Bazaar, and CNN. So it's
Ooh,
less of
yeah.
like a little fringe hobby now to kind of like a mainstream thing of people doing junk journaling. And literally, it's just like keeping your junk and pasting it in your journal. Everything from
Mm-hmm.
like labels and pictures and everything else, along with like paper and stickers, and putting it in your junk journal. And that's kind of what junk journaling is, where it comes from. It has so many roots, which is fun
Yeah.
that it's like such a historical thing as well. But yeah, I get them all over my For You page. And then I've even seen people been doing these Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal, and they have like
That's cute.
6 people and they send the journal out to 6 different people and they fill in different spreads and like do different pages with it and then send it back. So people are getting really creative with it and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if anything, it just shows, I think, people who feel this need for intentionality and, real world. It's one thing to have all of your memories on your Instagram,
Yeah.
but it feels so much more meaningful to hold photos of me in high school than to scroll through my archived Instagram feed,
Yeah.
like I mourn the fact that I didn't do a better job at like keeping those memories. In 2017, I got a new phone and I didn't do a very good job at transferring the photos. Like something got lost. So I lost a lot of photos of my freshman year of college and my last year of high school as well. And like all I really have are what's on my Instagram and also just like the random photos that I'm tagged in on Facebook. And I always think, I'm
Yeah.
like, man, like the amount of times I thought, like, oh, I want to print off the photos I have with my friends. And I didn't. And I think it's people showing that, like, I want to remember this more than just an image on a screen. I want to have
Mm-hmm.
something tangible. And I think even in like, I'm going to keep the menu from this place I went. I'm going
Yeah.
to collect things in all of these different ways. I think it's like that's what brings back the visceral memories of happy times, not so much of the little screen.
Yeah. And I think it's like a fun way to collect a lot of stuff like that like we don't really
Yeah.
have anywhere to put. Like I went to San Francisco last year to visit my cousin and we went to, in Princess Diaries they have like the museum of
Mhm.
all of the like machines. So it's like all of the games and like vending machines and she does like the arm wrestling
Yep.
one. Yeah. So we went to that actual museum
Fun.
and they had like a bunch of like palm reading machines or something where you like put your hand
Yeah.
on and it spits out like a little card. And I have all those like little cards and then I
Oh,
have like
fun. Mhm.
I keep going to call them passports, postcards.
Oh, yes.
I have like
Postcards.
postcards that I've kept from my trip or like my cruise to Alaska. And then it's like, how fun is it to have a place to actually put stuff like that? Because like
Mhm.
in today's world, where do you keep all of that stuff? Like, what
Yeah,
do you do
exactly.
with it? It's so
I'm
rare. Like, no one's getting ticket stubs or anything anymore, but it's like,
I know.
where are we
I
putting
used to
them?
collect tickets, and now
Mhm.
we don't even have tickets anymore.
Yeah,
So sad.
it's
I have
such
a
a
box
bummer.
of tickets though in my parents' house. That's also the same way I've been like trying to approach like decorating our apartment is like I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't want to just go to Home Goods and like pick out a print. Like I want it to be something that is so uniquely us. And so
Yeah.
now we went to Boston a couple months ago and we got a bunch of postcards from like the art museum that we went to.
Mhm.
And now those are all on our, like we put those as a mini gallery wall, like different things like
So
that, I think
fun.
are small little ways that, you can have intentionality in your life.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No, definitely. I need to do something with mine. I've been like collecting them. So every city I go to, I get a postcard because it's so cheap. It's
it's
like the
so,
easiest
it's,
souvenir.
it's the easiest souvenir and you can always find really beautiful
Mhm.
postcards. Yep, that is always my go-to is a postcard.
Yeah.
So
So nice.
I wanted to talk a little bit about baking, and I already mentioned it because I think that's also a thing that's big on trend, specifically sourdough. I will say I have not gotten the sourdough bug yet, not because I know I wouldn't love it, but because I know once I start doing it, I know it will take over my life.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like,
I
I'm
watch the
trying to resist.
videos, but I
Yeah, I
am
watched the videos.
very, very intimidated by
I
sourdough.
have a friend who has a starter who has told me she would give me some. She even sent me the full list of everything I would need. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit. I mean, I know you don't need to get all of the gadgets to get started, but I
Mhm.
was like, no, I better not. Anyways, but what I have done is for Christmas, I asked for a cookbook, which for me, that felt like an analog thing. I think before I would always just search recipes up online or on Pinterest. But I feel like for me, getting a cookbook from a person, a TikToker, I will say, Baked by Broma is her name. Sweet Treat or Sweet Tooth is just the name of her cookbook that I love. But I feel like it added a little bit of like analog intentionality, right? Is to get
Yeah.
a cookbook where I have to read the page and I don't have just like the world of the internet as my oyster to look up recipes. Like I'm starting with this book and it's only January and like I have baked so many things, but it has been really good for me because for one, it's kind of like we were talking about with the day job. It's trying new things with parameters, right? Where it's like because I have the parameters of only things in this book, it feels easier to just to like choose one as opposed to being like what could I possibly make? Well, I could possibly make
Yeah.
anything and let me like how do I search for that? So anyways, I have baked a gluten-free cake. That was yummy, incredibly dense, but I did it. It was my first time making a
Yeah.
layered cake where you could actually see the layers. I've failed making muffins and then I succeeded making muffins. And then yesterday I made some chocolate cake donuts and they were delicious, I will say.
Nice. Yeah.
I've been locked in on baking, which is funny because also at the beginning of the year, I was like, I am going to start following this workout app. So I have been doing simultaneously both things, making so many treats and also lifting weights as of
Balance.
January. We love
Balance.
balance. We love balance. But I also had a moment with myself of I'm like, wait, do I love baking or do I just like really love chocolate chip cookies? And there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with really loving chocolate chip cookies. But I was like, if I'm going to call myself a baker, I got to make sure that I can like
Yeah, you can
bake
bake things.
things. So that's what we're doing for it this
Yeah.
year. But I found this article just about sourdough and it said sourdough is having a moment again. Let me shout out the author of it because I just wanted to quote. This is actually from 2024, where Amy McCarthy is her name from eater.com. Funny that this is from 2024, but I still think it's, obviously so relevant. She was talking about how, of course, in 2020, sourdough had a huge moment because everyone was just trapped at home, but it's kind of still coming back. And I think home bakers in general, she talked about, of course, like, sure, there's trad wifery that's coming back maybe, but also like food prices are up. And so this like need like oh maybe I can make things at home cheaper, and I think also people are becoming more aware of like wait what things are in my food and
Yeah.
being health conscious. We had a conversation about it in one of our last episodes of last year, but like that can go down a certain pipeline that you got to be careful.
Yes, be
But I
careful.
think in general it's good to be aware of
Mhm.
what's going on, what you're putting in your body.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, homemade is always going to like
Yeah,
taste better.
homemade is always going to be better. I don't think anyone's shocked by that. Yeah, or disagrees with that. But I love how she described this. But she said, But the slow, methodical process of mixing, shaping, and obsessively staring at my starter, wondering if it's healthy enough, now feels like a welcome escape from doom scrolling on my phone. Considering that basically everything going on in the world right now is terrible, it's pretty obvious why people are looking to slow hobbies that pry our eyes away from our screens. And yet, my brain feels calmer than it has in months. There's an incredibly meditative appeal to the sourdough process because you're dealing with variable factors like humidity and the arbitrary whims of the baking gods. Sourdough is not a process that will bend to your will. Even control freaks will be humbled by sourdough's unpredictability, and that's a good thing. You can do everything right, and your loaf might still collapse into a dense, misshapen mess into the oven. But even if your bread is ugly and a little burned on the bottom, it will probably still taste pretty damn good. Realizing that if you fail, you have still succeeded is a beautiful thing. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier is I think it's just nice to be able to work on things and say, it's better to be imperfect than to be, like you said, made by AI
Yeah,
or, better to make something imperfectly than to have wasted time scrolling on my phone. I think that she just summed it up really nicely with that of like at the end of the day, it just feels better. And it's also good for you to fail and, try new things. And it makes sense that we're going to very safe hobbies to experiment and to fail and to make our lives a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more bright in the actual
definitely.
real world and with the things that we control. And I think it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I like it a lot. I think it's also fun that it's reviving hobbies that might have like
Totally.
died off,
Mm-hmm.
And like how great is
Yeah.
that like crocheting and knitting and quilting and baking and stuff like that isn't going to just like die with the new
Yeah.
generation. That like people are
Totally.
actually invested in like continuing to do them and
Yeah,
keep
and
them
I mean
alive.
that's a conversation we've had before is it's like it's easy to say certain things like, "Oh, that's just crafting." But it's like, "Nope, that is art." Like you are creating art and just because it has home use and
Mhm.
it's traditionally associated with homemaking, like that's art that you're creating and that's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that is going analog.
That is going analog. Let us know the ways that you're going analog this year.
Mhm.
Even if it's performatively, that's fine. It's better to be
Totally fine.
performative than to not do it
Do you
at
have
all.
anything specific that you're doing besides baking?
I am baking. Also, this year, I have a goal to read the Bronte books, all of the Bronte
All of
sisters.
them.
I've
Nice.
read Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights at the end of 2025. We didn't get to chat about it because we weren't
Mhm.
recording. And so then I was like, well, if I've read Charlotte and Emily, surely I have to read Anne. Anne's
And
left. Yep, I have to
yeah.
read Anne. And then at that point, I was like, well, I'll just make a goal. There's like 4 or 5 more books. It's kind of a lofty goal
Yeah.
because they're kind of some of them are dense,
They're
but
hefty.
I'd love to make it so I have read all the Bronte sisters.
That's
So
awesome.
that also journaling again. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, time to journal more. And then my baking. That's my analog hobbies for the year.
Love it. I got a
What about
little
you?
ambitious. And you know how we talked
Ooh.
about monthly curriculums?
Oh, fun.
I created a yearly curriculum for myself.
I would love to see your yearly curriculum,
It's
actually.
long. So it's a little bit ambitious, but I did it for January. So I'm like, I think I might be able to do this.
And if you're looking for a job right now, this is like the perfect time to still mentally stimulate yourself.
Right? Yeah, that's a lot of what I needed. So
Mm-hmm.
basically I'm studying women in hysteria all year long because
Because of course.
hyperfixation.
Yeah,
Yes.
naturally.
So I'm doing a nonfiction book, a fiction book, which are the hardest
Fun.
ones for me. And
Fiction is
then
harder than nonfiction.
no, nonfiction is hard.
Okay, yes. I was
Yeah.
going to be very shocked. I was like, I didn't know this about
Yeah.
you.
No,
Love it.
finishing both of those books in 1 month, it's a bit of a stretch. I'm not going to lie. Like, I love to read, but reading a nonfiction book,
Do you have the nonfiction books already picked out for every month or
yes. I
ooh,
picked out
okay,
everything for the full year. And I
perfect.
picked good ones, so it's been easier than I thought it would be. But I have a
Mhm.
nonfiction book, a fiction book, a short story, which is very easy.
Love.
And then I'm watching 2 movies, a documentary, listening to an album, and looking at a piece of art.
Ooh, you should send it to me.
Yeah, I will.
I would love to go to class with you.
It's been really fun, and I've been able to like pick up books that like I purchased for the podcast that I was like, I'm gonna read this, and then I like never did. So my first one was The Women They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore, that was about Elizabeth Packard that went into the insane asylum.
Yes, that's also, I read like 30% of it and was like, wow, this book is incredible. And I never finished it, but I need
to. That was my thing too. I picked it up, I started it, I never finished it. And then I was like, this is ridiculous. We do this for a living. I need to read some of these. So, and then I read The Awakening by Kate Shopton, which is on like every list of like feminist reading list. Very short, very sad. Awesome. And then read The Yellow Wallpaper again because I had to add that one in, even though I already have.
Good way to start the year. Yes.
Right. And then I watched The Hours, which is a 2002 movie. A Swallow from 2019, and a documentary called Crazy Wise from 2017. And then listened to Joni Mitchell's Blue.
Oh, nice.
Which was a really great album. And then looked at Mary Kelly's postpartum document from 1973. That was like this exhibition. Yeah. So every month has like a theme. Every theme has stuff.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I went in depth.
Doing.
Yeah, and then I did start like a little Substack for it, but it's mainly just going to be reviews. But like I'll send it to you, and then I'll post it on the page if anyone wants to look at it. But it's mainly just reviews, so it's not like anything crazy. But I told myself that if I did that, I would hold myself accountable for it and like actually try to finish everything. So
I love that idea.
So that's kind of my main goal, and then other than that, it has just been like my little bullet journal. But
that's great. I did make a 2026 bingo board that we wrote out everything. I have it on my mirror of the things I'm looking at. So that's my little analog thing. Vision board, we cut out magazines.
Yes.
Made it. It was really
Vision
cute.
boards are so fun. I need to make another one. I had one for a while. Life has changed a lot.
Maybe your old vision board is exactly what your life looks like now.
Yeah,
Maybe
there you
didn't
go.
even know it then. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we will be back next week with another episode.
Bye.
Perfect. Bye.